There is a moment in every abduction investigation when the geography of the case expands, and with it, the urgency. For Nancy Guthrie, 84 years old and missing since February 1st, that moment arrived quietly, behind closed doors, when the Federal Bureau of Investigation reached out to federal law enforcement in Mexico. No press conference, no announcement, just a phone call across a border, and everything it implies. The FBI's decision to contact Mexican authorities represents a significant investigative pivot. It tells us that the agency is no longer treating this as a case contained within the boundaries of Arizona. It tells us that someone somewhere gave them a reason to look south. And the most unsettling part of that equation isn't the border itself, it's who pointed them there in the first place. Since Nancy's disappearance, TMZ has been receiving a series of anonymous emails from what appears to be a single sender demanding Bitcoin in exchange for information about her location. The messages have been erratic, emotionally charged, and increasingly specific. One of them read almost casually, "Be prepared to go international." Another claimed something far more concrete, that the sender had personally seen Nancy south of the border 5 days prior, that someone had told them to stay quiet, and that they knew exactly who she was with. These are not the words of a random opportunist trying to profit off media coverage. This is either someone with direct knowledge of where Nancy is, or someone who is deliberately constructing that illusion with extraordinary precision. Distinguishing between those two possibilities is, arguably, the most consequential investigative question in this case right now. Law enforcement hasn't confirmed the emails are credible. They haven't confirmed anything, really. What they have done is act. The FBI asked their Mexican counterparts to distribute awareness of Nancy's case to local police agencies throughout the country, a sprawling network of regional forces across an enormous geographic area. That kind of request is not made casually. It requires coordination, diplomatic consideration, and a working theory that justifies the effort. The Bureau appears to have that theory, even if they're not sharing it publicly. What they have also done simultaneously is close some doors. Authorities reviewed footage from Border Patrol cameras positioned along crossing points. They analyzed electronic devices. They searched for any digital or visual trace that Nancy Guthrie passed through an official port of entry. So far, they've found nothing. But here is the detail that separates good investigators from great ones, and this case seems to have the latter. The absence of evidence at official crossings doesn't rule out a crossing. It simply means, if she was moved, it wasn't through a checkpoint. And the FBI has reportedly acknowledged this possibility, noting internally that if Nancy was transported across the border, it likely didn't happen immediately after the incident at her home. There may have been a holding period, a staging location, time that was used deliberately. That detail matters for a specific reason. The security camera footage captured outside Nancy's home on February 1st showed a masked individual, armed. The level of preparation visible in that single image, the concealment, the weapon, the apparent awareness of where cameras were positioned, suggests this was not spontaneous. And if the planning extended to a staged, delayed crossing, then the people responsible for Nancy's disappearance had contingencies. They anticipated pursuit. They built in buffers. The most recent Ransom communication received by TMZ escalated the tone further. It contained a Bitcoin demand and, according to reports, a graphic description of what would happen if that demand wasn't met. Whether that escalation reflects genuine desperation, a scripted pressure campaign, or something more troubling about Nancy's condition remains unknown. What it does reflect is that whoever is behind these messages wants a response, and wants it soon. Meanwhile, Nancy's family has been formally cleared by investigators as persons of interest. That development, combined with the international expansion of the search, narrows the investigative aperture considerably. The circle of people who had both the motive and the operational capacity to execute something this coordinated gets smaller as each known variable is ruled out. And when circles shrink in investigations like this, the center tends to come into focus. Somewhere between an anonymous inbox, a border camera that captured nothing, and a federal request that crossed diplomatic lines, there is a thread that connects to Nancy Guthrie. Investigators are pulling it. The question that remains, and the question that should keep every viewer of this case awake, is whether they reach the other end in time.